there's something about ultra processed foods that's causing this issue. It isn't just the nature of the chemistry itself. There are obesogens that are coming along with all these newly invented foods, and also that the impact that it has on our blood sugar as well. Let's talk a little bit about why ultra processed foods are so dangerous when it comes to belly fat.
Yeah, so one of the big problems with ultra processed foods is that they are a food source for bad microbes that start to accumulate inside our gastrointestinal tract. So if you create an environment with a lot of eucalyptus trees, you're going to get a lot of koala bears that are going to show up. If you create a lot of processed foods available, you're going to create a species of life form that are called obesogenic microbes. These are microbes that their chief food source is hyperpalatable, mostly carbohydrates, and also with it, the concomitant consumption of fat. So this combination of processed foods, carbohydrates, and fats in the form of hyperpalatable foods ends up changing the species of microbes within your gut. So I help my clients understand their problem isn't that they're obese. Their problem is they have an untreated infection within their gut that they don't understand. And so the solution to treating that infection isn't antibiotics, it's changing your lifestyle, cutting out processed foods so you eliminate the source of provision to those microbes. They literally will starve to death, will stop the cravings for those hyperpalatable foods, those processed foods, and then you need to replace them by replacing those bad microbes with good guys, good microbes. Microbes that are aligned with helping you promote health. They actually are designed to live within their host in a symbiotic relationship. And this again isn't taught in medical school, but you're aware of the benefits of fermented foods. And one of their chief ways that they're beneficial to us is that they literally help to change the composition of the collection of these microbes that reside within our gut that we're just really starting to understand in a way that they're now residing within us, and they help us. They create metabolites that are aligned with our health, that lower our blood pressure, improve our metabolism, help us to eliminate visceral fat, help us to form muscles, help us to generate our neurotransmitters, improve our mood, improve our functionality, our executive functionality, our memory. All of these microbes are aligned with our lifestyles. And so you basically, it is an invitation to the enlightened man or woman to live their lives better, purposefully, intentionally, to get more of these beneficial microbes within our gut and fewer of the obesogenic microbes. So you got to cut out processed foods and then replace the bad guys with fermented foods that have these living microbes in those fermented foods that go down and start living within your gut. But if you're just eating a chunk of meat or you're just eating a vegetable, you're not getting those microbes that were formerly part of our lifestyle and how we ate 50,000 years ago. We would hunt, the microbes from that animal would be transferred to the meat that we would eat, and they would be part of our daily existence. We would drink water from creeks, rivers, and lakes and be getting all of these living beneficial microbes. Unfortunately, today we drink chlorinated water without beneficial microbes. They typically are pathogenic ones, if anything, in the water sources that we do drink. And so one of the biggest concerns I have from a health optimizing physician is so much of our modern day lifestyle is depleting our most important asset in our body, which is our microbiome. And there are almost no physicians today that are aware of what you have to do to create a better microbiome.
Can you give us 3 specific foods for us to intentionally incorporate? So you mentioned fermented foods. Would that be number 1?
Yeah, I would say fermented foods, and within fermented foods, there are a couple of varieties. One is fermented vegetables. Mm-hmm. So I promote, a diet that that I don't have any financial interest. I just coined the name to help people understand, called the living carnivore diet. And I call it the living carnivore diet because there are a lot of people eating the carnivore diet. It's dead meat. It's good meat. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. I eat meat, but it's meat devoid of microbes. But if you eat a living carnivore diet, then you're eating meat with fermented foods. And so that includes fermented vegetables, vegetables that have living microbes in it. So kimchi, fermented sauerkraut, fermented beets, fermented beet juice, kvass. These fermented vegetables bring a variety and diversity of living microbes that are aligned ancestrally, traditionally, and across thousands of years, humans have been eating these fermented vegetables, and they've been a practice for us passed on. Why? Because ancestrally, we paid attention to the fact when these were introduced into our diet and they were consumed by individuals, it promoted better hunting, better performance, better health. But when it was resisted and eliminated, people declined. And so it became a tradition so that you consider do that. So today we see that among the South Koreans. They always are eating fermented sauerkraut, fermented kimchi. And there are a number of traditional people always have some sort of a practice of eating fermented food. The second time is fermented dairy. So that's an animal product that you can ferment, milk. And so I recommend people not consume dairy unless it's fermented. Some people can consume dairy without being a fermented food, and they may not experience inflammation from it. But for the majority of people, I think dairy in a non-fermented form risks the likelihood of being inflammatory to the body. So what is fermented dairy? Yogurts, unflavored, no sugar, no fruit. It's plain the sour yogurt. I know a lot of people don't like that, but you'll get used to it, and just cut out those flavors and sugars and things. And the other form of fermented dairy is kefir, which is kind of like a yogurt, and a very interesting, it's not technically yogurt, but a very interesting form of fermented milk out there is al-ruderai. And al-ruderai, for people who don't know about it, they should take a look at it. It's largely been promoted by a cardiologist named Dr. William Davis.
Yeah, he sat right in that chair and told me about
did he?
it. Yeah.
Okay, so you've covered al-ruderai, and I promote it to my clients. I have noticed myself, since I added it in, one of the things that has happened to me is I became a lot more empathetic with people than what I had previously been. It's interesting. So I feel people more. It's very interesting. It's like this deficit where I was previously detached from a sense of feeling for people, but it's Sean, I've lived 62 years, and now with this al-ruderai in me, I just feel people a lot more. And I'm like, wow, I feel like I haven't been living in this with this emotionally connected manner that this al-ruderai yogurt, but it's also associated with decreased sarcopenia, and promotion of oxytocin, improvement of your overall health. So I think al-ruderai fermented dairy is a good form. And then fermented dairy in the form of cheeses, old world cheeses. We're not talking Kraft American singles with plastic wraps around it. We're talking, cheese wheels that are in a circle that are cut with those kind of triangular shape to them. Ideally, really fermented with like blue cheese, gorgonzolas, roqueforts. The more fermented, the better. And then the other aspect to foods besides ferments are meat. And here's an interesting point that I think is important to point out. Today, we just get supermarket food, and so most people buy meat in a supermarket. Our ancestors of old would hunt a particular animal in a herd of animals, and they wouldn't just hunt the first one that would come along. They would be intentional about trying to find the healthiest, and that was for two reasons. Our ancestors, because they were healthier than we are, they used their brains in better ways. They were more intelligent, Sean, than we are today. We might know more from a knowledge standpoint, But my God, they could process information, so they could detect the smallest little changes in animals and be able to tell which one was the healthiest to get better sources of nutrition. And then here's the interesting thing, the better sources of these microbes. So the healthiest animal in a herd would have better microbes.